Hi, and welcome back to Unchained Crochet. This is the Preamble Ramble to the Free Birds Cape Scarf. It is a designing journey if you want to take that with me. So today I wanted to talk more about the yarn, and then I'm going to get into, which I already pre-recorded this morning before I was dressed and had my hair done. But I pre-recorded another segment in the bedroom on the desk so that you can see the schematic. That will be at the back end of the video. So this is going to be a discussion about yarn choices. I've done a little more research into the yarns that I'm using. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. You can prevent a lot of future heartache with all the time and money and effort you put into your handiwork. So before we get too much further into this, I just wanted to share a Bible verse with y'all. This is a verse that I have had at least the first 6 words of it memorized for quite some time. It's from the King James Version. I like the King James because it sounds like poetry, and it actually, they've researched it and said it reads at a 6th grade level, so I don't know why we have all these different versions, but whatever. It's Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. So Ecclesiastes is a good book, and I think Solomon wrote it, mainly he wrote a lot of verses in it to his son. So a lot of good sage advice and very biblical moral advice. And I like that verse because of the part where it says, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. I've always kind of used that as an excuse to really get into my stitching or my painting or my knitting or quilting I used to do. So just a funny little quip for you. If you want something to help enable your addiction a little bit more. So on to discussing the Free Bird Cape Scarf. That's cape with a P, not cake. The yarn that I'm using, I have 2 skeins of this right now, and I'm going to be buying. Actually, I already just purchased it today. Bought 1 more skein. This is Hobbii, Hobbii. All the links for the 2 yarns that I'm using, they'll be down in the description. But I wanted to tell you more information that I found out today, because it can save you some money and help you make your yarn selection as well. Because you may not want to use the Chloe yarn that I'm pairing this with. So this Hobbii yarn is called Cookie, and it is 35% off right now on their website. It's usually like $13 and some change, $13.90 I think, and right now it's $9.10 each. And there's 656 yards in this cake. This is recaked by me because I frogged another project. I decided I was sick of that stitch. I'd done several projects in that stitch, and decided not to go any further with it. So that whip became a new whip. Re-whipping. But you'll need, if you're going to follow along with this and make it and follow the schematic, you're going to need somewhere between 2 and 3 cakes of this because of the feather stitch being so densely textured. This is 100% acrylic. It is single ply. Lots of different colors in there. And I'll just show you the piece once more. You'll see it later on in the video. You may have seen it in my video I did last night. So you can see it is pretty dense because of the overlapping of the rows. After I said last night, after the first row of half double crochet, it was all just the same row repeat. There's the second row is the fillet row with half double crochet. That's to set you up. So it starts with solid half double, then a fillet row, and then you get into the feather stitch and keep repeating the feather stitch. So follow the tutorials I linked down below, and it will get you where you need to be as far as learning that stitch. Pairing that one with the Chloe that I showed last night. The Chloe right now is, I got this on clearance at the Hobby Lobby clearance. I got a bunch of it for $1.49 a piece. There's no more clearance left at any of the stores that I'm aware of. And right now, this week, it is 30% off. So it is $4.20. Normally $6, $5.99. So a little bit of a savings there. You'll need about 6, I'm guessing here, because of the yardage comparison. These are 270 yards each. And I don't think you're going to need as much of the Chloe or whatever yarn you choose to pair with the single ply cookie. I don't think you'll need as much of that yarn just because it doesn't have quite as much overlapping. There's not long stitches to it. So, although it is textured and it is dense, it's just not as much overlapping. But information about Chloe, this is important. I don't want anybody to be unhappy with yarn I've encouraged them to buy. Chloe is 70% wool and 30% viscose. I don't remember how viscose is made. I think it's made from some kind of protein, milk protein or something like that. I don't know. But it is hand wash, warm, and dry flat. The cookie that I just showed you is 100% acrylic and machine washable. So that being said, this is a cape / scarf. I don't plan to wash mine that often. To me, it's just not something that's going to be getting really dirty. And not something I'm going to be wearing every day. So I may wash mine, hand wash it, and lay it out to dry. I'm not going to block it. I don't feel like it should need a lot of blocking. It's a denser stitch, both of these. And it's not like you got to have open some lace up or anything. And if that were the case, I would go ahead, if I wanted to, and hit this with the steam iron, just like I do my acrylics, and open it up that way. But it's a texture stitch, so I'm not planning to take the iron to it. But I love the Chloe enough and the feel of it. It's rather soft for it being mostly wool, and it has a little bit of a color gradation in it. So for me, I can live with that. If I've looked around online today, mainly through Hobbii, because that's where the cookie yarn's at. If you want to substitute for the cookie, Red Heart Roll with It Melange from Hobby Lobby would work if you want to get the Chloe and use the Red Heart Roll with It Melange instead. It's probably 30% off too, because they usually do their whole yarn, all their yarns 30% off at the same time. So you could do that route, go with the Red Heart Roll with It Melange and Chloe from Hobby Lobby, or you can get the Hobbii cookie yarn. The link's down below in the description, and pair it with my next suggestion for a pairing yarn with your variegated yarn would be the Hobby Lobby Yarn Bee Sweet Delight Baby. And they have some that are kind of tonal, like gray and stuff, and taupes. So Some good neutrals to choose from. There's ivories. You can just get, I would suggest you buy your variegated yarn first and then take that with you to Hobby Lobby and find a yarn to pair with it, either the Chloe or the Yarn Bee Sweet Delight Baby. But the links are down below if you want to look at them, if you want to buy them online. I'm not affiliated with any companies yet. Maybe in the future, but not right now. And in the schematic I'm going to show you later in the video, you'll see that I may be adding a border to mine at both of the ends down at the bottom, and to make it a little bit longer. If I do, I'm going to use this Chloe. This one's called Pine Forest. By the way, the links that I used for these, for the Chloe and for the cookie yarn, down below are links to the specific colors that I am using in case you want to use those same colors. If not, you can choose colors from the same page. But this one is Pine Forest, and I might just go ahead and use it on my border because it looks pretty good with the cookie as well. Sorry, I should have put, let me get this light on. It looks pretty good. There's some greens in there. Let me find a section that's got a good amount of green. Looks like that's it. And I'm unraveling some of it, but there's some greens in it and some blue greens. But I think it goes nicely, and there's a little bit of gray to this, so it picks up on the blues and the greens that's in it. So that is not set in stone yet as to whether or not I'll use that on the ends. If you can find a single ply in a worsted weight that is complementary to your variegated yarn you're going to use for the feather stitch, and you know, if you're using cookie, if you can find a single ply, go for it. I've just had a hard time finding any similar to this that's acrylic, that's single ply. So it's either use this or find something that isn't too heavy, because of the actual weight of the single ply. It's, if you use a 4-ply acrylic, I don't think you're going to get the same weight if you were to hold it on your hands, one side on this side, on this hand, and the other on the other hand. The 4-ply acrylic, I think it's going to weigh it down more. So if you're wanting to have fun with it and wear it either side up, then you really want to pay attention to that selection that you make for your coordinating yarn. All right, that being said, any other details that I have forgotten to mention here should be in the description box below. I just made the longest description box ever in my Samsung notes to copy and paste when I upload the video to YouTube. So I'm also using an eye hook. Hold on, sorry about that. Using an eye hook on my other tutorial I have going right now. I'm using an H hook. If you're a tight stitcher, you might go up to an I. But I am using H, and that's my favorite hook, and it's working out pretty well for me. Let's see. The stitch tutorials are still in the description, but since I put those in the previous video from last night, I was so tired last night. But since I put those there, I just went ahead and copied and pasted them and put them in this description box as well. But they're toward the bottom. So the new information from this video is toward the top. And that's going to be it for this segment. And now we're going to go to the other video section of the schematic. Don't be afraid. It looks, I went to a lot of trouble making this schematic, but it looks more complicated than it is. And you don't even have to do every design detail that I'm planning to do. It's just some ideas that I think would look great, and some pretty neat effects to it The options, those are just options. So if you want to keep it more simple, you can keep it more simple. Don't put pockets, don't put any crocheted feathers, you know, don't make your feathers clip on, sew them on, whatever. You know, you just do it your way. I just like to really get my full design process out on paper and compile it all. So unboxing that for you and trying not to overwhelm people at the same time is almost impossible for me to do. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed. These are 2 simple stitches put together for a gorgeous cape scarf, and the rest is up to you whether you want to do those or not. And I wouldn't worry even too much about the length. The next video will be basically more discussion on my section of the feather stitch. And then I'm going to get into like how many chains I started with for mine, and how many you may want to do if you want to do the full length and not have any end borders on yours to make it 80 inches. That's up to you. And then I'm going to get into, on that same video, I'm going to get into, I'll have the feather stitch section completed. I'm going to get into crossing over to this yarn and the Trinity stitch, and also, you know, making the little slits as I change yarns, little slits for the armholes. So enjoy the next section of this video, and I will see you guys later. The piece is going to be quite remarkable, I think, in my humble opinion. Hopefully this isn't too shiny for you. I included the still frame of the mock-up, we'll call it. This was on my designing table today. I need a drafting board, a drafting table, like an architect. I've gone through some measurements of a piece that inspired me, and kind of modified it a bit so that you can adjust the piece on how far it hangs for you. This here would be a little extra you can add on as an afterthought if you want yours a little longer. This is not going to be an exact science. It is somewhat of a rough draft. So basically what we're going to be doing here is starting with a feather stitch, and from end to end, including those borders, unless you want to do it all straight across and feather stitch, that's fine too. If you do it straight across and feather stitch, this is going to be 80 inches long. If you don't, then it'll be 73.5. So these 2 ends could be done in like a 3rd color to accent whatever you do your feather stitch in, if you use a multicolored yarn for that. And so my goal with making this was not only to figure out the math, but I already knew the 2 stitches I want to use, but it was also to figure out how to make the pockets work so that the piece is totally reversible. Both the Trinity stitch and the feather stitch work across, I think it's an even number. So those 2 stitches are going to work great together. They are also both totally reversible, so they look the same on the back as they do on the front. And they're similar when worked up, they're similar in density. I still am going to stick with recommending a single ply yarn for this project, just because I've been working the feather stitch in a single ply yarn. It is the Hobbii, Hobbii yarn called Cookie, and I'm using the colorway Flowery. I will also show you that I have worked up in this video so that we have everything in one place. on one video. So I worked it up so that it could be reversed and the pockets still make sense. Here is where it would drape over your shoulders, kind of around your back, arm to arm, basically. I put shoulder neck, but your shoulder neck, whichever way you're wearing it, it's going to be closer up to here. But this would come around your back here. And then you're going to have 7-inch opening here and here for your arms. So it should fall somewhere from your elbow, maybe to your mid forearm. And then, depending on how tall you are, and then these here, right there and there, would be a 17-inch drape if you make it 80 inches. So I'm not going to be, in this series, I will not be telling you exact numbers to do for modifications. I will tell you the numbers that I'm using, like my starting count for the feather stitch, because that's where I started, and then I'm going to go straight into doing the Trinity stitch in my second color. There's not going to be a break. And when I start this Trinity stitch is when, somewhere around there is when the openings are going to be made. You just have 2 openings right there. So I chose this, and also the piece is 32 inch total tall. So whichever way you're wearing it, this is you standing right here. And this would be what wraps around you. Okay, so here we have pockets, the pink on the green, because I wanted to take this Trinity stitch, and when you learn your stitch, you go to the Trinity stitch video by Fiber Spider, try the Trinity stitch a little bit, measure it, get a good eye for gauge, and I would suggest you just go ahead right then and make you 2 pieces of Trinity stitch that are squares, somewhere between 6 to 8 inches, I think would be appropriate for a pocket. So make 2 of those in the Trinity stitch by Fiber Spider. And then, and this is a good place to start because you're going to be learning how to do the body stitches by doing the pockets as swatches when you watch those instructional videos. And then I would suggest you go to Creative Grandma. I'll put the links below this video again. But Creative Grandma does the feather stitch tutorial. So again, however big you made your pockets here, aim for about the same size. It doesn't have to be exact because it's on the other side. But you want to have 2 the same size in the feather stitch for the pockets on this side. Okay, I've labeled these top pocket feather stitch. This is the top end of the pocket, the opening of the pocket. And then on this other side, I did the same. This is the top of the pocket, the opening of the pocket Trinity stitch. So I've reversed the colors just so you get an idea that you're going for that contrast on top of the other yarn that you're using. Unless you choose to do all of this, your feather stitch and your Trinity stitch in one color, you could then go ahead and do your contrast pockets in a second color if you want, or do them in the same color if that's what you want to do. It's all up to you. So if you want it shorter, aim for this length when you're starting your feather stitch. And if you want it longer, you can, and without having to add borders on to the ends later, you could just make this whole starting piece 80 inches long. So this is how the pockets work out, and this is totally flippable, reversible, because both stitches look the same on both sides. It's a totally reversible piece with the pockets. So as you wear this piece, you would then, it's not turning so easy for me now, but you can see your pockets, and we may need to angle those. You'll know when you go to sew your pockets on. Don't do that till the end. But you can see that the top of the pockets, if this piece is on, top of the pocket is going to be open toward the top. This being your back area here. This being where your head is going to be. Right there. And then your pockets. Again, you know, you may want these angled this way. You might want to turn it that way a little bit. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. Because you'll have the body of this all done before your pockets are added on. You can try it on and place something there, like maybe some dressmaker chalk, just to mark about where you want the corner of your pockets to hit. Maybe 2 big X marks, or you could use a couple stitch markers and let that be the guide for where you put your pockets. So how it's reversible. You can wear it like that with your pockets up, or you can flip it around, turn it inside out, which there is no right side, wrong side to this, or wear it like that. So one way, you've got your feather stitch, hopefully in a different color, as I think it would look great, on the top of your body. And then, like mine is multicolor yarn for the feather stitch here, the green. You could have your multicolor at the top, or you can wear it with your solid color at the top and your multi color as your pockets. So this is kind of stiff because I went to painstaking process of doing some gauge conversion and drawing it out, cutting the paper, trying to get things, you know, equal and without being perfect. It's not a PDF. So hopefully you can get an idea of where we're going. This is kind of just a map of what we're using. And I think it's pretty simple, but again, I design a lot of stuff. So if you just keep it simple, start off making those pockets. If you want to have pockets on yours, if not, just make a swatch. Get familiar with those 2 stitches and look below this video for your links to those 2 YouTube creators, because I feel like those 2 videos in particular, their stitching is very easy to see. Even Creative Grandma, she's using a variegated colorway, and you can see, you know, what she's doing, where she's been in the stitching. And Fiber Spider, I just love Fiber Spider. He's very clear on his directions, and very good at making his hands stay on screen and all that stuff. So is Creative Grandma. So I will catch you all later. Actually, no, I won't. I'm gonna grab the sample piece of the feather stitch to show you once more. I also, this is so silly, but I've made a little feather and laminated it with some packing tape as well. But I wanted to show you, if you decide to go with this shorter length, you might want to put these feather tassels that'll have a wooden bead at the top. I may do a video tutorial on those, just so you can see how I made it. You can add them at the corners if you're going with a shorter wrap, I think that you'll be safe with it not being hanging down too low, too dangly. You could add them to all 4 corners of your wrap. If you're doing the 80-inch length, I would suggest that you maybe add 1 or 2 to the top of your pockets. Probably just 1 on 1 corner would be really cute toward the front. So, of course, it's not going to be, I don't think it'll be as long as your pocket, but it may be. I don't know. I haven't even made one yet. I just found a couple good patterns that I may follow for that. So, I will show you how I make mine. And as well, oh, and because this, if you're going to do all 4 pockets to make it totally reversible, I would suggest you, wherever you put your feathers. If you put them here, you don't have to put a clasp on them to make them clip to the piece. But if you're going to put them on the pocket, you don't want that when you're wearing it the other way. You don't want it to be dangling inside your body or hanging down below, you know, the piece. You don't want anything funky like that going on. So what I would suggest, if you later decide you want to put them on the pockets, I would recommend 1, and I would recommend that you use one of those little hooks, a jewelry making hook, and stitch it to the little opening at the bottom of that hook, and then you could just clip it on to your pocket. You could even go through probably 4 or 5 loops of your work to the body and the pocket corner right there. So then it would hang there, and you could take the feathers off when you want to wear it the other way. If you decide you want to wear it the other way, that's even if you know, if you even want to make it reversible. But you could then unclip them when you want to wear it the other way and put them on the other side. So that is that. And this is where I've started. Right now I have 73.5 inches. So I haven't totally decided yet. I may change my mind once I get my Trinity stitch done, but I'm sticking with this 73.5 that I have in the feather stitch so far, because I've come quite a ways, and it's a dense stitch, and I don't want to undo what I've done already because it's such a long piece. It's as long as a blanket. So I'm going to stick with that for now, and I may later add on a 3rd border color. I have some more of the Chloe that I plan to use for the Trinity stitch, Yarn Bee Chloe. It's in taupe for the Trinity stitch, but for the border color, if I add a border, I will probably go with this other one that I have that picks up on some of the greens in my feather stitch. So that is this part right here. And just pretend this was full size. I would then just keep going, stitch 17 inches in, and then do the yarn opening. And when it comes to this part right here, I'm going to show you as I do mine when I'm changing colors and making the arm opening. I'm going to show you that part on video and get across that whole row of color change. This will not be a lot of video of me stitching. You're going to learn to take some baby steps and compile new skill sets, maybe learn a couple new stitches, and learn the designing process. Because the goal of my channel is to help people be less pattern dependent, breaking some pattern dependency. And for me, as I've always been an artsy type. My mom used to tease me and say, because I used to quilt, I used to paint, I did murals, I did paintings, oil and acrylic. I did some furniture back in the shabby chic trend, and knit and crochet. So quilting, painting, knitting, and crochet. And they're all things that I taught myself from books and videos. So I can't really say I taught myself. I just navigated my own way. I never was set down by anyone and took formal classes anywhere. And the crochet I've been doing since I was a kid. And that's a long story, but I kind of just played with crochet when I was a kid and moved on to trying to make baby garments when I was pregnant with my first daughter, and did those without a pattern, and they fit my poodle. She ran around the house with the hat on and looked like a circus dog. She was trying to get it off, and the booties were too big for my daughter when she was born. They kept falling off. So then the next time I crocheted, I learned to read a pattern, and did a baby blanket for my next daughter when I was pregnant with her. And then I made another baby blanket for my third daughter when I was pregnant with her. And then I kind of just stuck with blankets. I didn't get into garments until the poncho craze came out with the coming home poncho that Martha Stewart had. So that has been, you know, the beginning of my crochet journey. And it hasn't been until I dived back into crochet after taking like almost exclusively an 8-year hiatus from crochet to teach myself to knit, and knit like crazy for almost 8 years. And then I came back to crochet and eventually started my channel. So that is my crafting story. But Mom used to tease me. My mom used to tease me and said that I had a crafty demon named Art. She's so witty. I had a crafty demon and his name is Art. Funny, funny mom. So that has been what led me up to going nuts and making these little designs that I came up with. But this one I've kind of memorialized because I feel like it's going to be a signature piece of my channel, because it goes with my free bird theme. And that's what this whole video series is going to be about. And the design is called Freebird Cape Scarf. That is the official name now. So I hope you join me. This won't be starting for a while, but you can get a head start and make pockets if you want. Buy your yarn, have fun picking out your yarns, and go ahead and get a start on learning those stitches. Talk to you later. Bye for now.